There's an enormous, obviously, a lot going on. And we went through all of it, what we know, what we don't know. At the end of the day, actually, the decision was, I think, pretty clear. And the biggest reason for that is actually the fact that inflation has come down further and faster than we thought it would. So, we start with a good position.
Huge number of unknowns out there. We can talk about some of those international factors in a moment. But the budget has without doubt complicated the picture. It is added to potential growth over the 1 year period, as you said, but it's also adding to inflation as well, potentially. Have you shared any concerns with the Chancellor of the Exchequer about the inflationary impact historically of tax and spend budgets?
Well, first of all, actually, I'd slightly push back on the budget complicating the picture. I think, frankly, we needed to have a budget. So in many ways, from our point of view, the most helpful thing is to actually have the budget. So in that sense, it doesn't complicate. It helps actually to know what the position is. In terms of, Chancellor and I talk regularly. They have as a Treasury observer, can observe the MPC and can distill particularly what's relevant to the Treasury from that. And so we've gone through, in a sense, taken the Treasury and the Chancellor through the sort of inflation impact. But I'd say this: I've been very clear that actually, yes, we have factored it in, but at the end of the day, we have a central view that inflation is going to go up a little bit, but by the standards of what we've seen in recent years, I'd emphasise the word little. But we think it's going to come down sustainably to target within the horizon we look at, and therefore that's why we've been able to cut rates today.
You talk in the statement today in the NPR about some of the global external factors on inflation abating. But are there other global external factors building up which are going to make life for central banks, for the UK government, and indeed for the issuance of the paper that has to underwrite the government programme far more complicated going forward?
So the distinction I draw there is the very big global drivers of the big increase in inflation that we and of course many other countries saw have abated. So COVID, particularly the post-COVID supply chain problems, the impact of the Ukraine war on inflation, those are the things that have abated. And that's good news. Third thing I'd say is the events in the Middle East are tragic. Interestingly, they haven't had the inflationary impact that certainly, I have to be honest with you, I feared they would, because the oil prices actually remained quite stable. Now, so that's the first set of things. The second set of things, are there a lot of risks and uncertainties out there in the world at large? Yes, is the answer to that question. So there are things that could happen. We don't know what those things will be. We'll see. We'll respond as we see how they're going to evolve. But yes, so the things that we've had in the past that we know about have either abated or haven't, interestingly, recently haven't had as much effect. But there's a lot of uncertainties out there.
But Governor, you've been repeatedly asked, I'm sure by other journalists now and in the presser, constantly about tariffs, constantly about Trump. But that's all hypothetical as you push back. What isn't hypothetical is that the US government, no matter who the government is, according to the CBO, is going to be issuing vast amounts more paper. The French government can't get a deficit below 6%. The German government, we actually don't have a cohesive German government at the moment. All around the world, there is a structural change going on, which means higher deficits, looser fiscal rules, more bonds globally. That, for me, is the biggest structural concern that hasn't been addressed today.
Well, I don't think monetary policy, of course, monetary policy responds to that. It's not going to directly, tackle those questions. What I would say is this. And you're right to point to a whole range of countries. There are some very big, what I would call structural forces at work. I think that are affecting many countries. So, nearly all of us have aging populations, which has effects, obviously, in terms of fiscal policy. It also has effects on monetary policy in terms of the supply of labour. So all of us have that. I think, sadly, having gone through a long period where the demands of defence expenditure were reducing post the Cold War, we're seeing some reversal of that. Then thirdly,